Alright, Cody, here's part 2. Get out of here. We don't need you this time. Alright, Cody, the next passage is going to come from To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is one of my favorite books. I know you're not a big fan of it because it's like a bunch of law stuff in it, but that's not what it's all about. It's a tale about growing up and dealing with the dignity of humans and treating people equal. So this passage is where Atticus Finch, who's the father of the main characters, is giving his closing remarks in a trial where a black guy is being accused of raping a white woman. Remember, this is back in the 1930s, so that sets the stage. And so a quiet, respectable, humble Negro who had unmitigated temerity to feel sorry for a white woman has had to put his word against two white people's. I need not remind you of their appearance and conduct on the stand. You saw them for yourselves. The witness for the state, with the exception of the sheriff of Macomb County, may have presented themselves to you, gentlemen, to this court, in the cynical confidence that their testimony would not be doubted. Confident that you, gentlemen, would go along with them on this assumption, the evil assumption that all Negroes lie, that all Negroes are basically immoral beings, that all Negro men are not to be trusted around our women, an assumption one associates with the minds of their caliber. Which, gentlemen, we know is in itself a lie, as black as Tom Robinson's skin. A lie I do not have to point out to you. You know the truth, and the truth is this. Some Negroes lie, some Negroes are immoral, some Negro men are not to be trusted around women, black or white. But this is a truth that applies to the human race, and to no particular race of men. There is not a person in this courtroom who has never told a lie, who has ever done an immoral thing, and there is no man living who has never looked upon a woman without desire. Atticus paused and took out his handkerchief. Then he took off his glasses and wiped them. We saw another first. We had never seen him sweat. He was one of those men whose faces never perspired, but now it was shining tan. One more thing, gentlemen, before I quit. Thomas Jefferson once said, all men are created equal, a phrase the Yankees and the distaff side of the executive branch in Washington are fond of hurling at us. There is a tendency in this year of grace 1935 for certain people to use this phrase out of context to satisfy all conditions. The most ridiculous example I can think of is that the people who run public education promote the stupid and idle along with the industrious. Because all men are created equal, educators will gravely tell you, the children left behind suffer terrible feelings of inferiority. We know all men are not created equal, in the sense some people would have us believe. Some people are smarter than others. Some people have more opportunity because they are born with it. Some people make more money than others. Some ladies make better cakes than others. Some people are born gifted beyond the normal scope of most men. But there is one way in this country in which all men are created equal. There is one human institution that makes a pauper the equal of a Rockefeller, the stupid man an equal of Einstein, and the ignorant man the equal of any college president. That institution, gentlemen, is a court. It can be the Supreme Court of the United States, or the humblest J.P. court in the land, or this honorable court which you serve. Our courts have their faults, as does any human institution, but in this country our courts are great levelers, and in our courts all men are created equal. I am no idealist to believe firmly in the integrity of our court and in the jury system. That is no ideal to me. It is living, working reality. Gentlemen, a court is no better than each man of you sitting before me on this journey. A court is only as sound as its jury, and a jury is only as sound as the men who make it up. I am confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence you have heard, come to a decision, and restore this defendant to his family. In the name of God, do your duty. Alright, Cody, the next passage is coming from the book Lord of the Flies, which is another book that I know you're not really that much interested in. You had to read it in school. Look at the creeper over my shoulder. I don't know if you ever seen the Vine with the creeper, creeper guy. This girl's going around and this guy's just always in her pictures. But yeah, so yeah, here's a passage from Lord of the Flies. Toward midnight, the rain ceased and the clouds drifted away, so that the sky was scattered once more with the incredible lamps of stars. Then the breeze died too, There was no noise save the drip and trickle of water that ran out of the clefts and spilled down, leaf by leaf, to the brown earth of the island. The air was cool, moist, and clear, and presently even the sound of the water was still. The beast lay huddled on the pale beach, and the stains spread inch by inch. The edge of the lagoon became a streak of phosphorescence that advanced minutely as the great wave of tide flowed. The great water mirrored the clear sky and the angular bright constellations. The line of phosphorescence bulged about the sand grains and little pebbles. It held them each in a dimple of tension, then suddenly accepted them with an inaudible syllable and moved on. Along the shoreward edge of the shallows, the advancing clearness was full of strange moonbeam-bodied creatures with fiery eyes. Here and there a larger pebble clung to its own air and was covered with a coat of pearls. The tide swelled in over the rain-pitted sand and smoothed everything with a layer of silver. Now it touched the first of the stains that seeped from the broken body, and the creatures made a moving patch of light as they gathered at the edge. The water rose further and dressed Simon's coarse hair with brightness. The line of his cheek silvered, and the turn of his shoulder became sculptured marble. The strange attendant creatures, with their fiery eyes and trailing vapors, busied themselves round his head. The body lifted a fraction of an inch from the sand, and a bubble of air escaped from the mouth with a wet plop. Then it turned gently in the water. Somewhere over the darkened curve of the world, the sun and the moon were pulling, and the film of water on the earth planet was held, bulging slightly on one side while the solid core turned. The great wave of the tide moved further along the island, and the water lifted. Softly, surrounded by the fringe of inquisitive bright creatures, itself a silver shape, beneath the steadfast constellations, Simon's dead body moved out toward the open sea. So, that's obviously the part in Lord of the Flies where the savage kids have been fearful of this beast, and they see this kid coming down from the mountain, trying to tell them that the beast is actually a parachuter, a real human being, and they actually think he's the beast, and they run towards him and they stab him with a bunch of sharpened sticks, and they kill him. And I just love the description of the ocean carrying him out to sea, and that his character is no more in this book. And it's basically the biggest loss of innocence, I believe, in that book so far. Right before Roger is being chased in the thickets, and they're burning him, trying to get him out to kill him. So I really love this book. It's really a kind of a case study on humanity, where we can go from if we don't have a set rules and we don't stay civilized, we don't practice our civilization, our civilized selves among each other. Alright, Cody, the last passage comes from the book version of The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. I don't know if you've ever watched the full lecture on YouTube, but it's about this guy that had pancreatic cancer, who was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University, and they had a series, basically, if you had one more day to live, what would you say, what advice would you give? And he gave his actual last lecture on achieving his childhood dream. So the passage that I picked is from near the back, if I can get to it. It's from chapter 29. It's called Earnest is Better Than Hip. I'll take an earnest person over a hip person every time, because hip is short-term, earnest is long-term. Earnestness is highly underestimated. It comes from the core, while hip is trying to impress you with the surface. Hip people love parodies, but there's no such thing as a timeless parody, is there? I have more respect for the earnest guy who does something that can last for generations, and that hip people feel the need to parody. When I think of someone who is earnest, I think of a Boy Scout who works hard and becomes an Eagle Scout. When I was interviewing people to work for me, when I came upon a candidate who had been an Eagle Scout, I'd almost always try to hire him. I knew there had to be an earnestness about him that outweighed any superficial urges or hipness. Think about it. Becoming Eagle Scout is just about the only thing you can put on your resume at age 50 that you did at age 14, and it still impresses. Despite my efforts at earnestness, I never did make it Eagle Scout. Fashion, by the way, is commerce masquerading as hip. I am not at all interested in fashion, which is why I rarely buy new clothes. The fact that fashion goes out of fashion and then comes back into fashion based solely on what a few people somewhat think they can sell, well, to me, that's insanity. My parents taught me, you buy new clothes when your old clothes wear out. Anyone who saw what I wore at my last lecture knows this is advice I live by. My wardrobe is far from hip. It's kind of earnestness. It's kind of earnest. It's going to carry me through just fine. I love that chapter because he refers to Eagle Scouts, made a big reference to Eagle Scouts, which you and me both are, and that's probably one of my favorite parts of the book besides the whole book itself. I love this book. It's a guy that's actually dying, and he's giving advice about achieving your childhood dreams, which he gets to do. Some of them he's already achieved, and some of them he gets to achieve after he gave the lecture. So this is a very good book. So Cody, that's all I had. As you can see, I had a lot of books to choose from. I actually had to cut one of the books that I chose because of time constraints. So you have those, and then you have, move the helmet here. You have books there, and yearbooks and stuff there. But yeah. But I wanted to cut some stuff down so I could put in this last section. I wanted to show some video and pictures from the baseball game that you saw the intro of the last video, part 1, that I didn't explain for some reason, which we won 6-4, which that's a respectable score. The team that we played is called the Altoona Curve. They're a farm team for the Pittsburgh Pirates. One of their players scored a home run. When they scored the home run, they started playing a song. It started out with like, "That Doesn't Matter to Me Much." I don't know who it was by. And then on the scoreboard, they showed the Neil deGrasse Tyson meme where he's like, "Whoa, we got a badass here." It was pretty epic. So here, without any further ado, is stuff from today, this weekend.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Oh, it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Now it's 1, 2, or 3 strikes. You're out of the old ball game.
Yes, the Rubber Ducks are sponsored by Duct Tape. And yes, they have a foul territory. Foul.
Now let's root for the